Hey everybody, this is Carlos Ocelote, founder and CEO of G2 Esports, former professional gamer, and wonderful bodybuilder, as you may have known. Of course, you know me for that, pretty sure. And you're watching Duncan's channel. Thorin, my man. Enjoy.
Right, along these lines then, another player I want to ask about is one that's still in G2 to this day, and it's Caps. Now, this is one thing where we couldn't be too explicit about this in the past, so here's how I'll say this, Carlos. I have spies everywhere. I mean, they're not really spies. I say that like that just to put the shits up people like Nicola and I'm like, fucking hell, who is it? Like, it's more like there's just people in orgs, people talk, and especially, sometimes they can't say it themselves because it's their job here, but they want people to know things. They want credit for things. They want to know that it didn't go down the way it seemed like that, and that's one of the things I've always done my career is once I know it's legit and I cross-reference it, I can say it. So here's what I heard. If people don't know, there never was a world where Perkz permanently could be the mid laner instead of Caps. Because one of the things I heard that you did, which is a very clever move, because I always wondered, how did you get Caps in a G2? Like, what would be the angle? Because the most obvious thing you would think, and apparently this is something that Caps himself was thinking about, is, right, so I joined Perkz' team and then he's going to go AD. But wait a minute. Like, basically, G2 is Perkz' team, though, and he's already won championships there. So, like, if he ever wants to come back, though, I'm either out of a job or what? I have to play AD. Like, that, I get, if I'm joining, like, I would think about, that's actually smart. You don't just go in like, oh, it's going to be brilliant. Like, he'll go forever. Like, you got to think these things. And I heard, basically, people know Caps' dad is in the scene, and he's taking care of him, and he's helped guide his career. I heard, basically, you sort of made, like, like, here's my word, like, look, if you join the team, we'll never do that to you. We'll never just come to you one day like, look, sorry, mate, you're out. Perkz is back, mate. You don't get a choice. Essentially, if you want the gig while you're under contract, you're the mid laner of G2. Something like this is accurate. It's part of how you got him.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And you know, if you know me enough to know that if I give you my hand and say whatever it is, my words come out of my mouth while giving you the handshake, that is happening without a glimpse of that. But Caps and his dad didn't deal with me until then. And they still gave me the benefit of the doubt. You know, they still gave me the benefit of the doubt, and they said, okay, this looks to me like a gentleman that keeps his word. And I've proven it to them in the worst potential scenario, which is public retaliation. The whole thing was horrible for me. And they still saw that I kept my word, regardless of the circumstances. I kept my word. The only way Perkz stays is by having Caps as mid laner. But even then, at some point, because we spoke about this 1,000 times, at some point it wasn't even anymore.
Yes.
And yeah.
By the way, along these lines, though, what was the significance for you of having Caps in the G2 org? What's he been like as a player? Well,
on one end, like from an outside the game perspective or outside Caps perspective, it's like having it's like getting Messi from Barcelona at his peak, and from player perspective, I mean, Caps is what we spoke about, the chaotic good type of personality. Caps is the same way, but multiplied by 10. It's multiplied by 10 chaotic, multiplied by 10 good. He has one of the kindest hearts I have seen anybody have. He's just a happy guy, and it's a good human, very good human. He can get easily convinced one way or easily convinced the other way because he's just a good, very good person, and that can be a problem sometimes. He also can get into his head too much, like change his mind last minute. Oh, I want to play this, but we never practiced it, type of guy, After practicing for 3 weeks straight for the key game, then 5 minutes before the game, he might get a change in his mind. It could happen.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to deal with that. It's not easy. You cannot just say yes because the whole team relies on that decision, but you cannot just say no because it's Caps.
Sure.
But it's also what makes him special. The Caps magic is called magic because it cannot be explained otherwise. And in key moments, he will be Claps, and in some other key moments, he will be Craps. But I think it would be very unfair to say that Claps wasn't present in the most amount of clutch situations out of anybody in the West, period. Like, well, Perkz, you can make a case for Perkz, yes. But from for me, both both positive, because I have both.
Sure.
Those two are my guys, but Caps is so special, man. The way his mind works is so special. And look, the issue of magician players is that the magic one day goes away, and because it's not a structured play. Like Faker, you can argue he had his years of magic, but he developed into a structured role over the years,
Yes.
and non-flashy, very good for the team role over the years. And he's been able to continue remaining successful. It's not different than what I've done myself, but he's done it significantly better as a player, But I think Caps is not this way. I think Caps is ride or die, motherfucker, And when the magic is gone, the magic will be gone. Until then, let's enjoy Caps.
Okay. Right. In light of the fact that during your era when you were a player was when the Koreans came along, and it was just immediately obvious, like, these guys are fucking insane and they're practicing more than us. There's a bazillion people trying to play there and go pro. Their ladder's insane. Like, it was obvious they were going to become the best. When you look back now, because I don't think people still appreciate this now, mate, it's like, people keep getting bombed out every time MSI or Worlds come, and they go, there's not really any team that could win from it. It's like, they're not supposed to win from the West, you idiot. You were actually spoiled by that G2 team for 2 years. Like, when they won MSI, it made, the dumbest angle of all time, I'm just going to call them out for this, I won't say by name, is the LEC broadcast team that made it like, Europe has taken over. Like, bro, when that lineup of G2 went away, nobody's winning MSI again. Like, you missed it. You actually missed it. That was the greatest team, and you thought it was the region was amazing. Like, I didn't see Fnatic in the final. I didn't see them in the like, they had Caps the year before. Yeah, there was that, but then the Caps came to your team. You won MSI. When you won MSI, you must have been on top of the world when you won this moment. Like, that's pretty. And you beat Faker's team. Like, you can't really get better than that, right?
Yeah, bro. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have a successful team that is run by a socialist, left-wing, Democratic Party voter. You cannot have that. It's impossible. So either you get the sexist, capitalistic voter that gets you into success, or you get the socialist Mad Lions, something like this, or Fnatic or whatever. Cheaters.
What about this, though? Winning MSI was obviously awesome, but when I say this stat, it's the one that's the sickest one. It does turn my stomach a bit. In playoff games, the team only lost one that year. And if they'd won it, it was the World's Finals, you would have actually done the Grand Slam. You would have won the whole thing, it's also insane. When you look back on that, like, that chance can never come back again, right? That was a window that was there, and it was real. Like, there was a world you win that final, and G2's just done it. You've completed League of Legends for that year, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, who knows? Esports is not going to go away tomorrow, and neither do I. Who knows if 5 years from now I acquire a team and just fucking go nuts and spend $1 billion on ensuring I live with my balls on the table again.
Okay.
The Phoenix comes out.
I mean, I will say, spoiler, we were going to get to some of this in a minute anyway, so I'll just tease it now. That is one thing that, when we get to the whole thing about what happened with G2, as much as everyone would listen to that and go, how could he come back in? Guys, you literally let people who murder people in if they have $1 billion, so shut the fuck up. Like, the joke is, if Carlos actually did just come along with enough zeros, magically everything goes away. Nobody says anything about him on the internet. They'd love him, they'd embrace it, they'd all work for him, and every player would join his team. I know this because, as I just said, without saying who, literal murderers are now the ones who run esports. But because they have the $1 billion, everyone, no one's saying fucking shit. So I agree, it's actually true. So here's a question then. I was going to ask about it obviously at one point in time anyway. Perkz, right? This is a guy where, I'll even say this, I notice even when you're gone from G2, and he's not even in G2, hasn't been G2 for years now, he's been one of the most loyal people to you, which is very interesting because, the haters do say that thing of like, yeah, but what about one thing he said one time on a podcast, or what about something that someone heard from him and then said on Twitter? I notice in public, he might go to the line, but he's been one of the most loyal people to you, and you've been loyal to him to some degree, right?
Of course. Perkz is a real man and is an honorable, loyal person, very ambitious. He's a real man, bro. He's a real man. Actually, he holds a lot of traditional values that I do hold to as well. He's a good human being, very good human being, strong in his heart, unbreakable. He might have his weak moments, but who hasn't? Who doesn't? Yeah. And yeah, regardless what anybody says or he says in some interviews, regardless what he thinks of me right now, because of course he also has to
He
do
has
his
his own
job.
brand,
And he has his job, he has his fans, he has his sponsors, the team that pays him. I will never judge him if he says anything bad about me now. But I still hold him. I respect him. He's and I am as loyal to him as he was to me. But just like one day I was angry with Alex Mueller for not letting me go, he was angry with me for not letting him go to Fnatic. And that's just the way life is. It's not always the way we want it, because things cost money.
Yes.
And it's just what it is. But Perkz is Lucas, a nice person, man, very nice person, and I'm glad he succeeded so much. He will always go to his grave knowing he was the best in the world in very key moments in a game played by 100 million people. Who can say that?
Sure. By the way, along the lines of the whole topic of selling him, one of the things I actually found crazy is this ties into what you said earlier about how some of the other orgs are. Because I'll tell you right now, I know Jack. I'm actually friends with him from Cloud9. He's also another guy I consider very smart. I like his approach. It's very different to yours, but he's got his own approach. And I will say this, when he bought Perkz, he even said, this is like, essentially, I don't do this in Cloud9. I get the players cheap, or when other people think they're not good, I buy them cheap, like buy low, sell high. But he said, this is the one player where, similar to like Mithy having to go to TSM, I just got to do it. I've got to give it a try. Like, how could I not? And so he told me what I've done essentially is I've saved up all my money from the sponsors in the piggy bank. This is a metaphor. And I'm just going to crack it open and splurge them as a pay. But what he meant by saying that was, he knew when you spend that many millions, even if you win everything, you never get that money back. It is buying a Lambo when you don't need one. You can have a nice Audi, you don't need it, but you want the Lambo, don't you? So, but this is the craziest part. The part that really people don't know, they don't get it, still do. They've heard this detail, but they don't get the implication, is Jack himself is a really good businessman. And he actually managed to not lose any money because he sold Perkz to Vitality. And it wasn't just Vitality, guys, I'll tell you. There were other fucking teams going to pay this. So like, bro, I thought at that time, essentially he was almost admitting like, yeah, I'm getting a bit finessed. Like obviously it costs loads of money, but I'm going to do it just for myself. He even got the year of him and then like get some other idiot to buy him for even just as much money. That blows my mind about the industry, dude. Like, because I get why Jack did it. I don't know what the others are thinking. I don't know what Vitality was imagining. I'm not saying anything bad about Perkz. Just the cost of the money is too much. It's too insane.
Yeah. I mean, Jack is a very good businessman. Same for Andy, Reginald. They both are the best businessmen in the world of esports in America, no doubt. And I knew that Jack would lose money. He lost some money, but the money he lost is a justifiable amount. You have to try. And if I was in his position, maybe I would have done the exact same. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I spent millions on a player,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I respect Jack. I respect Andy, Reginald a lot. And I know Reginald as well. He's, of course, a little weird, but who isn't? Nice guy. Again, ambitious. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't have a successful team run by a socialist. You just can't. There's no way around. You cannot have a successful team and giving everybody free days every day and just allowing everybody unionize and blah, blah, blah. You can't have that. You need a sense of competition, a sense of possibility that you can lose your job, a sense of understanding that this is a hard job. And if you want to be the number one at anything in life, you have to go through hardship and difficulty and have long hours in the day and be told when your body of work is shit and try to understand what you can do better.
Right.
You cannot be the number one and at the same time have a very relaxed, laid back life. You cannot. So either then you join a different team, you join, I don't know, fucking FlyQuest, Vitality, Mad Lions, whatever it is. Or nowadays Fnatic, or I'm not too up to par with who is shit these days, but I'm assuming almost everybody. And just enjoy your life, 9 to 5, then take a shower, go to sleep, don't think too much. If you want a real fucking challenge and to be excellent at anything in life, including esports competition, you need to be led by this kind of people. If Jack, Reginald, myself, anybody like us tells you this tweet is shit, just try to understand why. Or if we tell you, this pick and ban is garbage, it's coming from a good place. We want the same thing you do. We want to win. We want to be excellent, number one. You know. Now, if you have the type of people that will report you to the authorities for telling people that your pick and ban face is garbage, then enjoy life. What the fuck can I say?
Sure. By the way, along these lines, you're going.
Don't have the balls to complain when the team doesn't pass group stage. Just be a fan of a different team that saves the trees instead.
Yeah. Along these lines, then, you said it earlier. You gave the game away because if people don't know, obviously Carlos is a massive Real Madrid fan, understandably. But this is the angle people don't get. Is yes, obviously there's naturally a competition against Fnatic. They were the other good team in Europe. They were another team that had won championships. But it's more than that. Like there is almost like you did. I don't know how much it comes from their side as much. I mean, I've seen some, but they're good at pretending like they don't care. Basically, if people don't know, it wasn't just winning. You also did sort of want that thing of like, lol, I beat you. Like get owned. Like it's fucking like it's Yu-Gi-Oh! And here's my trap card. Because if people don't know, think about the order of this, guys. So Carlos got caps right at the peak of his powers when they've just made Worlds Finals. He comes and joins G2. And then they actually, in the off-season, were like, can we have Perkz? It was like, lol, we're keeping both. And they're like, the fuck? So then they lose that. So then they have to go through this era where they're always second place. So then after that, though, it's okay. Because then they think, oh, it's all right, we're getting Perkz finally. And that's like, sorry, Perkz leaves the region, goes to America. They're like, the fuck? So then if that's not bad enough, when he leaves, they're like, it's all right, though, because Rekkles is verbally committed to staying with us. And then it's like, actually, Rekkles is joining my team, the super team now. Like, even in that, like, in these scenarios, you do kind of like...
Wait, it gets better, it gets better. Because I'm such a genius, I made sure that Cloud9 doesn't buy Perkz and then sells him to Fnatic, so I make sure there's a clause in there that allows them to do so. And they had to make the Carlos rule now. I mean, you gotta
true.
give me, bro. I'm a motherfucker.
Okay. And then there's one other detail, which is eventually they did get a G2 player. They got Wonder when it just didn't really matter anymore. And they were like, what the fuck? And then they didn't even have them that long. They had like a year and a half. So here's the thing. You do take a special pride in sort of like wrecking Fnatic / Sam Matthews, right? There's something the competitor in you enjoys that, right? You sort of want to swag on him a bit.
100%. Like for me, I always said that the player transfer period for every single game is my new mid lane. You know, that's my mid lane now.
Right, okay. Okay. I mean, along these lines, though, another thing that people wouldn't understand is, you know, everyone got so upset at Carlos and G2 when they heard these stories. Like, he won't just let the player go for like half of what he's asking. He won't just let him out of his contract. I'll just tell people two details. One, I know this for a fact. I never say things unless I know what I'm talking about. I will say, I think, if I'm not certain. I know for a fact Fnatic has tried to poach repeatedly in esports, yet they're the ones that are always crying about it. All the other EU orgs, Carlos won't let the players go. He sells people to other regions. I'll tell you another detail. Rogue was never going to sell Hans Sama to fucking G2. They were going to sell him to America for loads of money so that he leaves the region. They did. Good old Fnatic, they had people themselves in contract prison at times. They had people who couldn't... What was old Niski doing, guys, in that spring split after they made that team? Oh, fuck all, because he was in contract prison. Basically, everything you were accused of, Carlos, all these other teams were doing, they're just not as good at it. They're just not as good. And the fans just didn't like you, so they don't give a fuck when Fnatic does it. Like, whatever.
They're not as good at it, and they're not as vocal, and they're not, you know, when you have a vocal guy, everybody that, when you have a vocal guy succeeding, everybody that disagrees with the views of that vocal guy just, you know, completely emotionally root against this guy in full. You know, there's like they don't have a neutral perspective of no. They just are straight up. They hate him.
Yes.
Done. This guy must be taken away. So every single time something like this happens, all the idiots gather in the same places in Twitter and Reddit. They happen to be the places. Those happen to be the places. Yeah. All the idiots gathering and just talking trash about Carlos, and you know, that's how it is. But I mean, it never affected me really. I mean, the only thing that affected me, I remember, was the Perkz situation, just because he was dear to me, and all the situation was, I can't even remember it exactly, but it was a bit so, and but it affected me 10%. Nothing else affected me. Everything was 0%. You know, I didn't lose sleep over anything. It was okay. Because if you want to be excellent at anything in life, you're going to get at least 50% of the population will hate you in full. At least 50%.
Yes.
Maybe even more.
Right, there's a topic I've left till now, and look, I can't lie. This is because it's one of my favourites, which is obviously Rekkles joined your team, didn't he? Now, here's the thing, Carlos. Like a few things, even maybe a few things politically, I'll just put that out there without mentioning anything. There's some things over the years where maybe you didn't see my perspective, or you were like, he's off on one ear. What's he doing about this? All I'll say is this. You did message me one day towards the end of that year with Rekkles, and the message just said, like, you were right, bro, or like, I see what you mean. Because everyone thinks I just hate this guy irrationally. No, I've known all his teammates. I've known some very legendary players that were teammates of his as well. I've known his coaches. And here's the thing, as a player, he is one of the best ever. As a figure, he's one of the most iconic. But he is, I'll just say this a million times over, he is like, I mean, Shox was like this. You had Shox in G2. There's a reason why the nickname for Shox from his teammates was Princess. Because everything has to be just as he wants it, and if he doesn't think that he's got like the control he wants, or then he's in the huff. That's just who they are. They're both brilliant players, but they have this certain aspect to them. Give me some angle. Why didn't the Rekkles angle work? Because by the way, he was still a very good player that year. Why did Rekkles in G2 not work?
Rekkles is like a whimsical woman. That's how he reacts. That's how he acts. You know, it's like, but it's like it's tough to manage because. You have a talk with him, and you say, hey, you have to play more than this champion, which is not even meta, right? You have to play this, and you have to play meta champions, you know? This is what the coach wants, and this is what you got to do, bro. You have to do it. And then it's like, yeah, I understand. And the next thing you hear is the day after in scrims, he is muting his microphone and just automatically, locking in scrims, the champion, right. You know, and you're like, what the fuck happened between yesterday and today? He's that kind of person. He's the worst kind of teammate to have in a team in many occasions. Of course, when it's crunch time and he's fair, best guy to have.
He's a stud, yeah.
You know, he's very, very good. He takes the risks, but at the same time, you know, he's very mechanically incredible, but not a good teammate. And any teammates that have any sense of what a well-run team should look like will dislike sharing team with him. But at the same time, you know, when I could get him, I was like, in my head, I was like, probability of failure, high. Probability of incredible success, not zero.
You have to try it. It's another one you have to try.
It's like one of those things that maybe 10% chance of winning everything, 90% chance of shitting the bed like we never shot it before. And you know me, I'll take it.
Yeah. Along these lines, though, you touched on it earlier. This is one of those areas where I've just learned that Rekkles fans are K-pop stans. They love, not even Rekkles, they love the image of Rekkles in their mind, not the real guy, because no evidence given can ever make them stop loving him. And here's why I know this. He admitted himself on stream, Carlos, that when it came to that off-season where I reported that he was going to be sold, spoiler, was he sold? Was he kicked? Oh, that was me who did that. It wasn't a Pokemon that knew that. It was me, a real human being that's a legend in the scene for 20 years, not a character from a video game. Right, okay, just checking. So when I reported this, right, the thing that people think is they think you just put him in contract prison and you made his price impossible, then he stopped him going places. He himself admitted, Carlos, that both sides were antagonistic. And he actually said this on camera for real. He said he didn't want to go to certain teams because he didn't want G2 to make a lot of money and he wanted to sort of fuck you guys for whatever happened to him. And he knows on the other side, maybe you didn't want to sell him to certain teams and maybe you wanted to charge that. And he actually sort of admitted this one time. So can you give me this thought? Because when you said he was a cunt earlier, I get the sense this is what you were referring to.
Sorry, bro, because you mean about the pricing, right?
Yeah. And just the idea that like both sides were sort of being unreasonable in a way, right? And there was a problem trying to sell it.
We were not being unreasonable for multiple reasons. Number one, the fact if Rekkles joins a competing team, thank you, brother. If Rekkles joins a competing team, I cannot just give away market share to a competitor. People have to understand capitalism. That's how the world works. Okay? If I give away to my biggest competitor a player that will take away sponsorship dollars from me, okay, and I make it too easy for them, the cost of opportunity has to match the value. You understand? And nobody was matching the value. Now, was the value I was asking for high? Actually, it wasn't at all. Okay? It was very, very easily doable. However, the teams were they were hearing bad things about why we get rid of him. They were hearing bad things about him as a player. It was just bad. It was just bad press. Press wasn't helping me selling. Then he leaks some shit that is not even leaked because he made it up in his head. So, and he did that so that the price goes down in people's minds. But that he's stupid because that disallows me to sell him. It makes it harder for me to sell him. So his strategy, thinking he's a fucking smart, overly intelligent guy, was he was shooting himself in the balls. You understand? He wanted to lower his price, which he thought would lower my expectations. But bitch, no. Guess what? He didn't. It didn't. So he shot himself in the foot. And I believe good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. Of course, there's one-offs, but for Rekkles, it wasn't. He ended up in second division like he deserved.
Okay, the last topic is the obvious one we were going to talk about. It's obviously the cancellation angle. So here's the question I have, right? Which is, I understand in the media world. In fact, this is something we've even talked about privately. You've even said if you'd wanted to stay in esports.
Wait. Actually, wait.
Go on.
For Rex, before we get to I remember something vaguely in my head. It was that he was making shit up about him learning that he was getting kicked in the middle of a recording or something like this, some nonsense like this, complete bullshit. Thankfully, I have all the logs, but because I'm not a woman, I'm not gonna just go out there and I don't have that energy in me to just share fucking logs on Twitter, to prove myself. I don't have to prove myself to anybody. My word is my word. I believe in my word, Carlos, and the people that were with me in G2, they all know the truth. They all know the reality of the matter, And he's just a little diva, a whimsical woman. And he got the introduction to what we wanted to do weeks before. Then he got the confirmation of what we wanted to do many days before that famous recording. And he still was trying to get to convince players that he should stay. He was trying to, speak with the players, okay? If you really want to stay, speak with the players. Really want to stay. It's not just Carlos, okay, that you have to convince, which you also have to convince, but speak to the players. And the players were like, there is a 0% chance.
Okay.
There's a legitimate 0% chance I'll play in the same team as him next year. And I was like, say less. I also happen to agree with your statement. So, Mr. Rekkles, you're out. And then days after was the recording. Maybe even, I think it was 2 or 3 days after, yeah? Something like this. But yeah, because he cannot lose in the eyes of the public, right? He has to be always the one that always does everything right. And, they were trying to screw over me. Yep. And I did everything I could. I gave everything for the team. I trained me. That's him in a nutshell. Get fucked.
All right, let's do it then. Let's do this topic. So here's the story if people don't know. What happened was Carlos was in Dubai or wherever, and he was at some party. And because at the time, I can't even remember what it was something like Valorant or some game basically had like success. I can't remember maybe Rocket League or something. I can't remember what game it was. And so you did a joke tweet where the tweet was like, hey, we're celebrating like the success of the team in the game. And then in the tweet, obviously the video pans and it's like a big like champagne party. And then the infamous in the background there, who at the time was already
you have to bleep the name.
Oh, I will
for YouTube.
Okay, I will. Okay, right.
The infamous.
Yeah,
bleep.
The joke is I'll get that bleeped, but the joke is everyone will refer to. At the time, who was already like cancelled off the internet, banned, and already a notorious figure. I will say, people are so scumbag that they now pretend they knew things they know now, and that could be applied backwards, and that everyone knew it then. Like that's just what people are like. People can't. Certain people, when it's emotional, they can't be honest. They have to appeal to the emotion. So what I'll say is this: I'm trying to give the actual status of this. So you did this tweet, and he was there, and so you were obviously being edgy, sort of like, look, we're all celebrating this, which you obviously aren't. Like they don't give a fuck about esports. They definitely don't know about Rocket League or whatever. Like, it's even obviously a tongue-in-cheek joke. But then when you did this, which is a classic Carlos style tweet, by the way, you do an edgy tweet on Twitter, then what happened was people came at your head and they were like, right, what the fuck? And they were doing stuff which is so weird to me, dude. Because if I had to actually explain, and I'm not a dishonest person, I will never lie. This is the truth of what happened. You never said in that tweet, this is someone I agree with all the opinions of. You never said I agree with all things. This is what they did, as far as I could tell. There was actually a guy in a different game I won't reference because it won't do any favors to say his name. He nailed it. He said basically they punished you as if you were that guy because they think they hate that guy for things they think he's done. That's what they actually did. You never did any of these things. And so the maddest part to me is afterwards, because of the, look, you can say what you want about this. Behind the scenes, obviously, it isn't just CarlosR's org. There's investors and sponsors. They're going to come to you. They hate that sort of public opinion. So what they do is they say, you've got to do the apology. And in this scenario, by the way, you don't actually have to even mean it. You just have to, essentially, it's like being in Soviet Union. You have to say the words in the short track. Just say that you were the traitor and you did the wrong things and the state is correct and the mighty leader is correct. You do what you're supposed to say, the right things, which you sort of did. You did you went halfway. You sort of were like, yeah, sorry, I've sort of fucked up, and I feel bad about what it means to the people in the org. But because, and this is crazy to me, it's not that you made another tweet and by the way, I actually think this about women and men and stuff. You never ever did that, ever. What you did was you liked some tweets, and I'll tell people, go back and look at the likes. The tweets you're liking are just stuff like, wow, they're fucking him over here, or what the hell, stand up for yourself, Carlos. It was never like, I hate women, yeah, fuck women. It was never anything crazy like that. The whole story's been so blown out of proportion. But obviously, in this scenario, there was a choice you had. It was either you bend the knee, you can be in esports again, you can be the CEO of G2, you can do all the same things, or, as I've seen now, you have to sort of distance yourself, you have to leave, and there's no way back. It was the point of no return, is what we say in English, right? Can you give me some sense of, what was this like from your perspective? You could never have anticipated this, presumably, right?
No, I couldn't. Okay, there's a lot to unwrap, but you're literally 100% right. Nothing you said is untrue. Nothing. And with that said, there's no way I could have predicted it with that tweet. But I remember talking to you and Richard Lewis in an event. And I remember very clearly I told you guys, eventually I will get canceled. Because I say what I mean, I mean what I say it out loud, and nobody can fuck me like this. And this industry is going too far left. And I'm not left. Okay. And I will not say and do what they tell me to say and do, because that's not who I am. I will eventually get canceled. Whether you say I brought it upon myself or whether I just knew it was going to happen eventually. And by the way, I always had fear in my head. What will I do when I get canceled, right? Sure. Because I want to leave like a bitch. But the reality is that it happened to me, and I did the most honorable thing, which is stay true to Carlos, and fast forward. I mean, I'm not going to talk about what I'm doing right now, but fast forward almost a year now, and I'm so glad all of this happened, because my life, my relationships, my level of, my connection with myself, my finances, absolutely everything is straight up better than before, But yeah, you nailed it, and people. You could see a lot of people that I never called out, or maybe I did, but not like. Look, if people have their own belief system and I disagree with it, I will not go out of my way to call them out, because it's not. It doesn't. I don't lose sleep over them, But they know that I know that I don't like them. Okay. They know that I don't want to deal with them. They know that maybe there were those a few examples of people that applied to G2. And I didn't even give them the opportunity to apply, in the sense of I just knew I don't want my staff team to waste time with these people, because these are, I call them blue hair. Basically, they're just very annoyingly loud leftist people that are just going to complain all the fucking time and not get any job done. The same people that get you into trouble, like Reginald got into trouble, right? I don't want these people. And by the way, I have very good friends in leadership positions in video games, as you can imagine, obviously, and know, and you've seen yourself. And these people have told me multiple occasions, if I can give you one tip, is do not hire these people, because the moment you hire one, it's over. You cannot fire them because it's too much noise. They will hire more of their kind, and eventually the company becomes Riot Games. Or something like this. Sure. And the leadership positions, the founders of these companies, the executives of these companies, which at many times I respect and look eye to eye with, have told me this over and over. And I respected this in full, actually. You could see G2 has always been run actually quite separated from all the madness in the West. You can clearly say that. Every time we made a tweet, a political tweet or something like this that was either right or left, but we never, of course, nobody does right, but you would do left, in esports. I would just call the whole company out and say, delete this shit immediately. I don't give a fuck about no war anywhere. We don't do this. We don't do no war bullshit. We don't do no nothing. Delete, I would get into relative trouble, but because I didn't hire blue hair, it was passable trouble I could explain myself into. I always told people in G2, it's our job to entertain. It's not our job to right the wrongs of the world, okay? So if I wanted to right the wrongs of the world, I would have created a non-profit organization that does something specific, but I didn't. I created an esports team with my money. It's my esports team. And this esports team that I created with my money wants to be the number one at everything related to competitivity and the fun factor of the brand. Now, either you like it and you stay, or you don't and you fuck off. So over the years, I have improved the hiring processes of the company to make sure we avoid those terminal complainers. Their only job is to complain, regardless of their level of skill set and the ability to fix problems we had. And I always focused on attitude. That's why over the years, we never had problems with this. But once the company becomes too large, once you have 200 employees, there's always leakage.
Yep.
Always. And that leakage happens to every single company that transforms itself from a startup to a corporation, And I'm not going to get into whether G2 had that leakage or not. But just, you can read between the lines. Ultimately, what happened was with Andrew, with Bleep and me parting, created an excuse for those that wanted to see me fail, whether because they didn't get an interview, whether because they don't like my beliefs that I was always very open about. Not all of them, but you could read between the lines.
Yeah.
If you follow my career, you know what type of person I am. Okay. And that was an opportunity for all of them to showcase moral superiority, and to showcase that they care about the world and that I'm a bad person and I must be penalized for my beliefs because they're negative for the world. So them just getting some brownie points. That's what it is, And they got the brownie points. Many of these were liked by 20,000 people and industry leaders saying, "Oh yes, how terrible," But that's how the world works, and these people will never attain true happiness. These people will never attain true success either, because they are more preoccupied with somebody else's belief system or what they perceive to be a belief system, because I didn't even make it clear by then. More so than just focus on their shit. There's a reason why nobody that complained was extraordinary at anything. Just look at the people. Look at the people in the comments, okay? And tell me if you respect one of them. I want you to be very honest with yourself. Don't do it publicly because you'll get fucked, but do it in your head. Just go to the comment section. Go to Reddit, go to Twitter, and read the negative comments from people in there. And tell me if you respect any of them. Knowing enough about them, yeah? It has to be you. It cannot be fucking Mateusz Cygulski who doesn't know any of them, how they work or whatever, but that's how it is.
No, mate, here's the thing. People don't know this. People think I just agree with all the things in this topic, which is never the thing at all. I'll say I'm a little bit like Richard in this sense. I hate liars and I hate when people are misrepresented. And so one thing one of the reasons I've always defended you, actually just made the case of what really happened, is because, as you say, I know some of these people were the ones where you poached someone from their team, or they just were mad that their team wasn't the one winning the championship, or they just, like you said, they heard you make a hint at something, and the ultimate crime to certain people in the world is you're not even allowed to think the thing. You're not, never mind say it. If they know you think it, you have to be destroyed. That is a certain type of political ideology. I won't go into it, obviously. So here's how I want to spin this, though. The actual cost to you was mental, mate. It wasn't that you just had to step down and do some 2 weeks off and that. Literally, your team was not allowed into the partner program of Valorant, right? If people don't know, that is how teams are going to justify spending millions of dollars on Valorant. They have a spot that gives them revenue back. And all I'll say is this: how fucking badly timed was the move that not only did evil geniuses get in, but they tried to swag on you publicly that they were in and you weren't, when I revealed myself that they actually fucked with a player's mental state so much he was begging them to stop playing. They wouldn't let him until he earned them their world spot, and they could finagle an emergency sub that was fraudulent. And then after that, he went to the doctor with his family, and the doctor said, if it was up to me, I'd actually put you in hospital right now because you actually are malnourished. That's how bad this state has got. People who did that, Carlos, will never have their slot taken from any league. They weren't even cancelled by anyone who called you out by name. Riot Games, the company that took your spot and wouldn't give you it, has literally been filled with sexual harassers based on a fucking lawsuit they settled because they know there was no chance to win it. They also, within that lawsuit, tried to fuck with the opposing lawyers like some actual fucking TV show to screw over the deal and get the settlement down. And they have never fired a single person for that, and a single person has never stepped down. These are the companies that cancelled you for this thing, right? And if the people don't know, that wasn't some slap on the wrist. Like, that was enormous. Like, your Valorant team, you'd been investing in this for years. This was going to be another arm of G2, right? Don't you think that was a pretty wild punishment to have? I've never seen anyone punished like that in esports ever, mate.
Nobody has been punished like me. That is a fact. But I cannot get into a lot of these things because,
yeah, sure.
Think about it. I still own a large portion of G2, and there are non-disclosure NDAs, everywhere, and even NDAs when it comes down to applying to certain leagues. And
what about this then? What you can say is what your feelings are. Like, for example, what was it like to know that essentially people will hurt you financially?
Oh yeah, bro. They would not only hurt you financially. If they could have killed me, they would have. If they could kill me anonymously,
okay,
like have a thunder, like have something just kill me on the spot anonymously, they would. If they wouldn't pay the price for my death, they would. But this is how it is, man. This is how it is. If you want to live a life of excellence, then you have to deal with this, And it's true, bro. Ultimately, if you look at the net value of what I have done in the industry, I have supported minorities. I have supported female gamers. I have supported competent people that were very good at their job. I have supported people that gave their life to be better at the game. I have supported people that gave their life to be better at tweeting, at making content, at script writing. I have created different ways to entertain in the world of video games, from just competing in video games to, after I came in, people started entertaining outside of the game. I have done a lot of good. I have paved the way in terms of creation of tournaments, in terms of quality of those tournaments, in terms of the tournaments available for women as well, which didn't exist before. And I forced my hand personally with publishers to ensure these tournaments happen, which were not planned to happen before. And all of that is now gone. Why? Because you idiots are you idiots are too preoccupied with looking good as opposed to doing what's right. And it is what it is, bro. It is what it is. I don't live with the tail between my legs. I live with the head high, knowing that I have been, and if I would return tomorrow, I would still be the #1 team owner in the world in video games. There's 0% chance out there anybody anywhere close to what I've done. And I've been a trailblazer. I've taken risks with my own money for the longest time. I have given opportunities to people that none of these motherfuckers on Twitter ever gave opportunities to, until I showed the world that you can actually make a business out of getting women on teams. Okay, because before Carlos existed, nobody made money with female teams. Now Carlos exists. He makes money with female teams. Now female teams exist, and a tournament system for female teams exists. Everybody that got women in their teams lost money. This contract with women lasted maximum a year and a half, then never got renewed. Check how many professional player women have hopped from team to team to team to team to team. And every time they leave those teams, there's horrible stories to tell about the owners trying to make advancements with these people. And that is ultimately the only reason why they got this woman into the teams. Now look at me, what the fuck do you hear? 18 years working in this industry, not even one person can say anything negative, truly negative, about the way I operate. I have been, nobody can say I have been or treated people wrongly at a human level. Now see, this is what you're losing now, motherfuckers. Now enjoy. You're making this. You made yourselves the bed. Enjoy the bed. Now you gotta sleep on it. Meanwhile, I make other beds, and you will watch me, because listen, I will fail, but eventually I'll get it right. And you will see me get it right. That has been the case since I'm 15 years old. Since I'm 15 years old, people continue to say, what goes high goes down. Everything falls down eventually. Everything falls down eventually. Everything falls down eventually. Well, I'm 33 now. I keep reading that. It doesn't seem like I'm falling down eventually.
Right. One thing I want to ask is one of the last questions is, like you say, despite all the good things you've done, all the people you helped, all the other things, basically because of 2 tweets and some Twitter likes, you will be, I see it already on Twitter, like the same people who want the brownie points still do the comments. Like every tweet you make now, the general premise going in is you are a moron, everything you say is dog shit, and you are just the most hateful person ever. That's the premise. So the joke is you could just put good morning and they'd be like, oh, it means good morning for fascism. You can't win at this point in time. Everything you say is going to get that angle. So how do you actually feel about that? Like essentially, you're not in esports, but the esports world, they will try and make that your legacy. They will try and pretend all the rest it was the players or some other person in the org. They will try and revile you till the end of time, it feels like.
I don't feel anything about it because I don't respect the opinions of people I don't respect. And that I just, when I say I don't respect those opinions, I mean, I don't account for them as existing in my life. They don't exist for me. When I go to the street and I meet somebody, by the way, ever since this thing with bleep bleep happened, so many people came to me and asked for pictures and told me things, and I'm talking about probably 1,000 people, maybe 1,000 people total, maybe 500 to 1,000 people, and none of them, not one of them has told me anything negative. Quite the opposite. We disagree with the way you got fucked by the community, blah, blah, blah. So the reality of the world is very different from the reality on Twitter and Reddit. It's just very different. So it doesn't affect me. And also, I know I'm a gentleman. I never go down to the mud. Even though as a CEO, I always had fun and went down to mud fights. But it's for fun. It's fun mud fights. But when shit gets real, I never go down to the mud. Never, ever, 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 ever. I will never come out with logs. I never come out with truth, blah, blah, blah. It's just not for me. I will never do it. And you probably heard also some very personal stuff on Twitter relatively recently about my family. And you see, my reaction is non-existent. I know what I am. I know what I do. I know where I have my heart. And I will never publicly touch a topic down in the mud. I'm above that.
Right, at the end of this interview, and by the way, that's just not all. If you go to my side channel, we're going to have an interview with Carlos, but it won't be about esports. It'll be about life, philosophy, family, some of these topics. So what I'll say is, at the end of the interview, I always say this. Do you have a final message? Do you want to thank someone or say hello to someone?
Listen, I made a lot of interviews in my life. A lot of the people listening to this have heard my voice already. If they hate me, they will hate me double. If they love me, they will love me triple. and this is the way of life. It doesn't affect me either way. I will succeed regardless. So regardless of what the outcome of this interview is for the people watching or listening, my life does not change 0.0001%. I remain happy. I have the life I want to live in full, and just know something. I will, in due time, whether it's a decade from now, half a decade from now, in due time, I will expose the industry to how hypocritical it is.
Okay.
I will show the world how you can buy yourself back with money, and everybody will suck your dick.
Maybe we'll do part 3 in 10 years or something like that.
Inshallah.
Right. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Thorin, my brother.
As Mary J. Blige said in her track, All I Need, you're all I need to get by, which is the case for me and my Patreon community who support this channel and these videos. Some of them include Theogony, Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Ahmed Haju, Joseph Adcock, Tosh, Bot Pounder 420, Toucan, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Jensen Gore, Yerka, and a special thanks always to the main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to ask a question in my regular video AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out who upcoming guests are. Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content, or you want to take part in one of those longer esports discussions with me where we go all over the place. Well, if any of those grab your fancy, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Risk Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.